After 27 years of military service and several deployments to hostile areas, Bob now lives with post-traumatic stress disorder, which forces him to manage his symptoms daily.
I wasn't prepared to see such traumatic things. When I came back from Afghanistan, it brought back all those memories I had before.
Like many of his fellow veterans in Quebec, he can find healing waters through fly fishing, in tune with the rhythm of nature.
And there are always new forms of treatment that are being developed and researched that are very interesting.
But we all have the same goal, to have a better quality of life. For me, it's therapy, nature's therapy.
Sometimes it's going to take some outside interventions. For example, a spouse who's going to say, look, you really need to get help.
Before the services can be put in place, you need to be a partner, a friend, a confidant.
Just going to talk about it, going to see someone there, it's incredible. It'll change your life.
For Bob, the quest for a better life continues, from the front line to the fishing line.
You know, I told you he threw mines in front of us.
These?
Those are mines. They threw those in front of our vehicles to stop us from passing. You run over one, well, that's it. You can't get through.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Why?
Bob Morse is what you might call a survivor.
Well, look, you see the devastation. That's what war is. Everything's on the ground. There's not even a wall left. There's nothing there.
In the Canadian Armed Forces, Bob was a warrant officer and a gunner.
Artillery means you fire cannons, you fire shells. You're in the rear, and then you have the front lines in front of you. As for the front lines, they need more firepower, so you give the orders to the rear for the cannons. We bring the fire forward by the air. This is the Governor General's recognition. This is my medal for my time in service with my bar. This is for having served with NATO. This is for having served in the former Yugoslavia. And then this is what could have been used in Afghanistan.
During his 27 years of service in the forces and all these deployments in hostile zones, Bob encountered the worst of human distress.
When I came back in 2008, things weren't going very well. In 2009, I received the diagnosis, and then my release was in 2013.
Bob suffered from what is known in military jargon as operational stress injury. In his case, post-traumatic stress disorder. At least 16% of Canadian veterans have reported receiving such a diagnosis.
An operational stress injury can be any condition that's related to operations. For example, major depression, panic disorder, anxiety disorders. There's a wide range, which means that PTSD is one of the conditions that we see.
Dr. Isabelle Sarafian participates in the supervision of mental health professionals who treat post-traumatic stress disorder.
We've come to think of PTSD very much as an illness. It's treated as a mental illness by major organizations now and recognized as such by the medical community.
Post-traumatic stress disorder causes flashbacks, often unpredictable, which have the effect of intensely reliving a frightening or threatening experience over and over.
I go for a walk, I walk on the grass, but he doesn't want to, because sometimes he thinks there might be a hidden mine, an explosive.
I have to manage it almost minute by minute. I never know what's going to trigger a reaction in me. It could be a smell, it could be a sound, it could be a mood swing, it could be anything.
Actually, smells are very powerful reminders, and they can suddenly bring back very intense memories and even flashback experiences.
What they would have done is they would have rounded up anyone killed them so they couldn't talk later.
By the 3-month mark, usually if someone still has symptoms, those are going to persist. The earlier people come in, the easier it will be to treat. But there's also an important point to make with regards to that is that it's never too late.
The lucky thing for me was that he agreed at that time to go for a consultation. You know, he took care of everything right away.
I had her in my life, and I had help from professionals, so without them, I wouldn't be here. Just talking about it, not keeping it to myself, all alone, discussing it and going to see the professionals, because I didn't want to admit it, a man who showed a little weakness was not well received.
And then other impact has been on health services that have been increased remarkably throughout the war in Afghanistan and also afterwards.
That day, Bob had an appointment with his psychologist. He has been receiving professional help since his discharge from the armed forces in 2013. It's been a lifeline for him.
Yes, it's something that can be treated. It's something that can either partially or almost completely resolve itself. However, what we also note, the soldier's alarm system is always overactive. However, even when symptoms are clearly in remission, people will often remain with anxiety, with a high sensitivity to anxiety, despite everything.
I've had several related experiences, like with children, or with mutilated people, or things like that. Seeing someone grab a child to seize them and say, "That's enough," because the parent has had enough. For me, that can trigger other events that are not related to that.
There's a lot of research and there's a lot of interest in finding treatments that work for PTSD and for military PTSD. There's some therapies that can work quite well, and in some way they will involve revisiting the traumatic events. There's also medications that can be used.
They also need to find ways to calm things down a bit, to calm the body, to quiet the brain's alarm signal, to reduce social isolation, shame sometimes too, so to ensure that leaving the forces doesn't necessarily lead to social withdrawal.
And this departure from the military ranks also has a significant impact, often underestimated, on relatives like Marie-Josée, who feels that support is lacking.
He's having trouble concentrating. He's reading things, you know, with Veterans Affairs. It's not easy either. It's a battle just to get services.
She's the one who has to manage me. Not manage me, but manage the situation.
But from the moment there was a crisis, you know, he was taken care of. But nobody bothered to say, well, how are you? How are you doing? That means they don't talk to us, the partners. What are we going through? Are we tired? But there isn't enough awareness either. There was something at the beginning, you know, when the soldiers were still going to Afghanistan. But we don't hear about that anymore. We also went to Western Canada, and it's very different there. There's really a lot of recognition over there.
Today, I still have my family, I still have my loved ones, I have my new friends, who are all veterans.
So these are all the Quebec military personnel who have died. That one is a guy I trained for Bosnia. After that, he went to Afghanistan. His vehicle exploded and he died in Afghanistan. Every September 11th, you look at this and you say, I know him, far too young to leave us, far too young.
I was lucky to have a colleague who was alert, who listened, and who told me, go there, go and try that. Instead of losing my temper, well, I leave and I tie some flies.
Well, they talk to us about it, and it's also part of their follow-up here. How can it be enjoyable? How can they find pleasure in these activities, and thus combat depressive symptoms and the tendency to withdraw? So we do encourage them to participate in these activities, and we hear positive feedback about it over time.
The data that's there tends to show that it helps. I think there's a component of getting together as a group that's extremely important.
I have to be honest, for me right now, like the fly tying is my happy ending of the week. So I can just go to my file and start tying fly and my brain goes away. You know, it's really healing for me. It helped a lot.
You know, I see that I'm not the only one who's going through this, the psychological problems, the injuries. I'm living with post-traumatic stress, and often it's not easy to explain it right now. I could declare it finished. I tried to make a popper.
This summer, I've been lucky. I've been chosen to go do a fishing trip with them.
So now I do attach the feather to the hook.
As well, because we're a bunch of veterans, we've been sharing some experience and healing process with them.
When I'm fishing, I feel good. I'm in my own little world, and there's nothing that can touch me.
Bob really finds balance and meaning of life in his own healing journey. However, not every story follows the same path to regain a sense of liberty.
I enrolled in 2017 as a logistics officer. I've been discharged for medical reasons.
I know many who are leaving, but not because they were at war, because they were stationed in a garrison, and I want to carry the flag for all those people.